Right, what does it say under Bank of England? Now, obviously, you can't see that on the screen, but I think it's possible that maybe some people have noticed what it says under the Bank of England. I'm sure you all recognise that as a picture of a £10 note. And under the words Bank of England, it actually says, I promise to pay the bearer on demand the sum of £10. So I'm back on money now, aren't I? Now the question I have for you, please put your hand up if you have ever seen, touched, felt, held or heard a sum of £10. But keep your hand down if you've only ever seen notes like that promising it. So that's interesting, isn't it? That's just like everywhere else I've been, and every time I ask that question, we've seen notes promising a sum of £10. We've seen them promising a sum of £5 and a sum of 20, I'm sure, and maybe even a sum of 50 and so on. But we've never actually seen the sum itself. That, by the way, was a thing known as a promissory note because it had a promise on it. Okay, it's an IOU from the Bank of England. Gosh, just think how many sums of £10 the Bank of England has agreed it owes, which it never actually pays. It's promising the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, actually. Because we've already seen that money is only faith placed in something. It's a deception. If it said, I promise to pay the bearer on demand 10 unicorns, it would amount to the same thing. But then when you read that, if you bothered to read it, you'd go, what's the good of 10 unicorns? It's promising you the same thing. The pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, because that's all it can ever promise you. I mean, you can say, well, in the past, it would be a certain amount of gold or silver. Oh yeah, okay, fine. All right, super, wonderful, marvellous. What is a chunk of gold or silver? Well, it's pretty. But it's not money. It's just a lump of metal. Useful. But then paper's useful. Money doesn't exist. It's an illusion. Do we need it? That's the question. Now, here's something very interesting. Veronica says money's an illusion. Oh, Veronica's a nutcase. Conspiracy theorist. Oh, but hold on a second. So does the Bank of England. It says the same thing as Veronica. Now, I must admit, I worked out that money was an illusion back in the 1980s, funnily enough. And I started to explain to people and they weren't interested. Now people are interested. The first quarterly bulletin from the Bank of England in 2008. Does anybody remember what happened at the end of 2008? Yeah. Who said that? Me. Who's me? Is this somebody over here?
Someone behind us.
Oh yes, I can see your hand up. What happened at the end of 2008?
On September the 15th, the economy of the Western world took a nosedive.
Yes.
And immediately afterwards, a load of people were scuttling around like headless chickens.
Headless chickens, yes.
Trying to pretend that they didn't understand what had happened.
Yes. And what did it result in? Begins with B.
Well, borrowing a huge amount of money from everybody else.
How about bailouts? Is that the word you're looking for?
That's a good description.
Bank bailouts, could it be? Right, so at the end of 2008, we had all the furore, at which the gentleman's just been talking about, all the acres and acres and acres and acres of newsprint, we had all the pundits on the TV yakking away to their heart's content about the bank bailouts at the end of 2008. I think it was about October, I seem to remember. At the beginning of 2008, the first quarterly bulletin, page 103, it's a PDF and anybody can download it. So it's a PDF, page 105, bottom left paragraph. It says, banks extend credit, money, by simply increasing the borrowing customer's current account, which may be paid away to wherever the borrower wants by the bank writing a cheque on itself. That is, banks extend credit by creating money. Now, in the PDF, it's not in italics and it's not underlined where I've underlined it. Apart from that, that's a direct quote. Let's think about what that says. Banks extend credit, money, by simply increasing the borrower's customer's current account. Borrowing customer. Hang on. How can you be borrowing if all they're doing is writing a cheque on itself and extending credit by creating money? If they had the money, then you could borrow it. But they're saying that they just create it for you. Read it. That's what it's saying. Of course, it's nicely spun, but read it. The translation, money is created out of thin air by means of human signature. I say human, they say borrowing customer. I guess that includes the bank. Money's created out of thin air. I guess that includes the Bank of England. It's all it's ever done since 1694. It's to promise the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. So what is all that acres of newsprint about? And what was all that media pundit rubbish about? All the banks did was write a few more cheques on themselves. If you don't pay a demand, a court de facto, most courts, will consider you to be depriving whoever makes the demand. Oh, you haven't paid this back, you have deprived the bank. We've already seen that money, legalese, religion and politics are the same thing, they're faith placed in something. Can you deprive someone of their beliefs? Now, you can persuade them that their beliefs are wrong and get them to agree that you're right. But deprive means just take their beliefs away. You can't take someone's belief away just like that. It's not possible. So how can you deprive someone of their money belief? I mean, you can't, as I say, you can't. It's not easy to deprive a Jesus freak of their belief in Jesus, and I have tried. You can't deprive someone of a belief. And money is a belief. The bank believes you owe them money. The signature, the mark made by a human being, that starts the money out of thin air creation process. Now, along with the date and an amount, it creates an IOU, a promissory note. Now, here, you've got a promise, you've got a signature, if you look closely, and the date says when the bearer demands it. In other words, it's an open date. All you have to do is to go to the Bank of England with one of these and say, here you are, here's your promissory note, I want my sum of £10. That's all you have to do. And they will then frog march you outside, lock the doors and call the police. Because there's no such thing as a sum of £10. You're welcome to try. Financial institutions will take a promissory note and upon successful completion of credit checks will monetise it, which comprises typing numbers into a computer database these days, or formally writing numbers into a ledger. That's exactly what they said in the Bank of England's quarterly bulletin. They update the borrowing customer's account. It's not really a borrowing customer because they just create an account by typing numbers into the database and say that's for you to use because you've signed for it. You try getting anything without signing for it. When you're signing for something, you are saying, I'm prepared to be an energy unit to work my socks off. And they'll go, okay, fine, if you're prepared to work your socks off, you can have this, that and the other. That's the way the system is working.